Welcome back, guys. In today's class we'll begin our practical, and for this case we will begin on basic switch configuration using packet tracer. Under this topic we will cover the following. We will learn how to configure the host name of a switch, configure the line console password of the switch, line VTY password of the switch, encrypting these passwords, then configure the banner messages in the switch, and also interface speed and duplex. And also interface speed and duplex. Then we will configure logging, synchronous, exec timeout, and disable IP domain lookup. We'll turn ports on and off, then save the configuration. Okay, so without any further ado, let's begin our practicals. Okay, in our previous class we understood how to connect different devices using various cables. So in this case we are going to demonstrate how we can configure the basic configuration of a Cisco switch using Cisco packet tracer simulation software. Okay, so let's begin. I said earlier that if you want to find where a switch is, you hover over these devices, okay, and you will see where it's written switch in the text field here. Okay, so let's click on the switch. Then here is a list of switches available, and for our training I will choose the first switch, 2960. I will prefer that you choose the same. Okay, so let's drag and drop. I will take two switches. Okay, alright, so we want to make a connection between these two devices. We said earlier that if you want to find cablings under these icons, you just hover around them. You see here its connection, just click on it, and here is the type of cablings available. So in the case of same devices, we are going to use a crossover cable. A crossover cable is used to connect same devices, but a straight through is used to connect different devices. In this case, a switch to a switch, we use a crossover cable. So let's pick it. Here it is. Click on it. Just take the first Ethernet 0/1. Here, first Ethernet 0/1. Okay, that's done. So let's make this kind of a design at least interactive. Let's place some pieces, although this configuration was meant for a switch. Here, another piece here. Then connection, different devices, straight through. Take the second interface, connect to the PC, first Ethernet 0. Take that one, second interface, connect to PC, first Ethernet 0. So our connection is done. So we are going to start configuring these parameters. First of all, a host name. You know, every switch in a network has a host name. Okay, so you want to configure a switch to have a specific host name. Let's say a switch is placed under HR department. So we'll say that switch is HR switch. A switch is placed under ICT department. We will say ICT switch. Okay, host name. And how to configure host name? Let's go back to our packet tracer. Let's pick one switch, that one. And I told you how to configure switch. You can use graphical user interface or command line interface. Graphical user interface is a way of you just input values. You don't use any commands. But command line, you have to use command. And for our training purposes, we are going to use command line interface because I want you to understand much about it. I want you to be able to compete for some practical jobs. Okay? Alright. Let's click on the CLA, command line interface. In the previous class, we said in the basic switch configuration is that it has 3 view modes. The first mode is called user exec mode. This mode, a switch with a greater sign, that's called user exec mode. And to move from a user exec mode to a privilege exec mode, which is the second mode in basic switch configuration, we use a command called enable or EN. So in this case, I just use EN, or in full just enable. If you write EN like that, just click on tab and tab will complete the statement. Okay, just like that, and hit enter. So this one is a switch with a hash, that is a privilege exec mode. I said under user exec mode, no configuration can happen there. You can't configure switch at that point. But under privilege exec mode, there are few or little configuration that you can make to a switch. So to access full configuration, let's go to global configuration mode. To move from a privilege exec mode, to move from a privilege exec mode to global configuration mode, we use a command called configure terminal, just like that, and you hit enter. That's invalid, meaning I've used something very bad there. Oh, I use configure, I use T, configure terminal, just like that. We have moved from privilege exec mode into global configuration mode. So we can start configuring a switch from this point. Let's just hit enter to create more space, and I'll expand this way now. Okay, oh, it doesn't appear very good. Let me just reduce the size like that, and this one also just like that. Okay, so this is our configuration. We want to configure, the first one is host name. How do we configure a host name? It's very simple. Just type a command, host name. Then which name do you want to give your switch? Let's say this switch was placed under HR department. So we will say this HR dash switch. Okay, and you hit enter. Can you note something here? The switch has changed its default name to HR switch. Can you see here? So this switch is now called HR switch. The default name of a switch is always a switch. It comes with the default configuration name of just switch there. Just switch as a name. So if you change the host name will be the name of that switch. Okay? So in this case, we have changed the switch name to HR switch. I hope you understand that concept, that simple command. Let's go forward. The next parameter that we're going to configure is line console password. A line console is that physical port. In a switch, there is a port called console port. A console port is used to manage and configure the switch. So before you access that port, we have to configure the password to that port so that bad people or hackers or attackers cannot interfere with our configuration. Only authorized users are accepted. Unauthorized users are not accepted. Okay, so we are going to configure console password. The commands of configuring console password in a switch. The first thing we do, we type line console 0, okay, and you hit enter. As you can see, the configuration is in a line mode, is in a console line mode. So we want to configure a password to this line console so that only authorized users are allowed. Okay, to configure password, just use password. Just type password. That's a command. Password here is a command. Okay, now you write your password. Let's say HR@123. So for you to access this switch, to configure it physically, you must input this password. Okay, line console 0, then password, that's your password, then hit enter. Before you get out of this interface, you must specify a command that is called login, such that when a user enters this password in a console mode, in a console line, they can log into the switch and hit enter. Go. Let's get out of this interface. I told you a command used to get out of the interface is exit. Okay, we are back in user configuration mode. Let's see what we have next. Len VTY password. Sometimes a network engineer is far away, and he cannot physically configure the switch, meaning he has to configure it remotely. Out of band access, he has to configure it remotely. Which line will he use? The network engineer will use len VTY. So before that user access the feed, before that user access the switch, he must input a password to allow him or her access that switch. Basically, len VTY normally works with a protocol called telnet, out of band access, remote configuration. The first configuration that we can have in a switch is using len console 0. The second one is len VTY. So let's configure the password of len VTY so that anybody will use telnet to configure the switch or remotely configure the switch will have to input a password so that he or she can configure that switch. Okay, so let's go back to our configuration. In the case of line VTY, we type in command line VTY 0 space 4. Line VTY always have 5 interfaces. 0 to 4 is 5. So we just specify it from 0 to 4. Line VTY 0 to 4. 5 interfaces. This is a complete command. Don't forget it. Then hit enter. We're in which mode? A line VTY mode. So let's configure password. Password is, we just type password, then HR at telnet 123. So anybody will have to use telnet to configure the switch or configure this switch remotely. You'll have to input this password. Okay, let's hit enter, and don't forget this login. Good, just like that. And which command? Exit. Good. So the first thing that we did was to configure host name. The second thing is to len console password. The third thing was len VTY password. Let's see the fourth thing. Encrypting password. Okay. Sometimes in a switch we have to encrypt certain passwords. To encrypt this password, we use a command enable secret. And which password do we want to encrypt? Let's say it's HR at 123. Okay, and hit enter. Alright, this is a password to encrypt password. This is a command to encrypt password. We just type a command called enable secret, then type that password that you wanna encrypt. Okay, let's go to the fifth parameter, banner messages. This is a very important as parameter, because in a network it's very good to specify. Probably the switch might be under HR department, but that switch is used to do a certain function, is used to perform a certain function. So to specify that kind of description or a comment, we include a parameter called banner messages. Okay, and the command that is used to configure banner message of a switch is this one. We just type banner MOTD, banner MOTD, then you use a character, any character that you like. Let's say I like which character? Hash. You can use any character that you like. But the first command that you must include is banner MOTD, then hash or any character that you like. Then now let me specify this HR switch is used for research purposes. Full stop. And then after that one, you must include the first character that you used. The banner message must be in between the character and the same character. If it is hash, it's hash. If it's star, it's star. If it's dollar sign, it's dollar sign. Don't use a dollar sign and a star. Okay, so we include hash on this side and hit enter. The banner message is set. Banner MOTD character, then what you want to include in between. Okay, let's see what's next. Login synchronous. We have login synchronous. A login synchronous parameter prevents the switch or a router from popping up a log messages while we are configuring that switch. You know, sometimes when we are configuring a switch, you get interrupted by log messages. So to prevent that, we specify a login synchronous command in these devices in order to prevent that scenario. Okay? Login synchronous is normally configured on the line VTY or line console. Then exec timeout. Exec timeout is a command that will enable the devices to disable or deactivate a VTY or line console user after every 10 minutes of inactivity. By default, exec timeout is 10 minutes. When a user doesn't do anything on the switch, doesn't configure the switch, and the switch remains idle for 10 minutes, by default, the device will disconnect that user. We'll configure login synchronous and exec timeout. They both apply at line console and line VTY. So let's go back to our configuration. So let's get to line console. Line console 0. Then login, just type login, log like that one, then hit tab on your keyboard. Synchronous, when you don't know the spelling, just hit sync, just like that, hit tab. When you hit tab, the command is completed for you, and hit enter. Okay, we have configured login synchronous on the switch on the line console 0. Then let's configure exec timeout. We just type exec timeout. Then we want this switch to disable user after how many minutes? Let's say 3 minutes 0 seconds. Enter. The configuration is done on the line console 0 for login synchronous and exec timeout. Let's exit. So let's configure the same on line VTY. Line VTY, I told you it is 0 to 4. Okay, hit enter. Just type login synchronous, log, then hit tab. Synchronous, when you don't know the meaning, hit tab. When you don't know the spelling, hit tab, then hit enter. Exec timeout should be 3 minutes 0 seconds. Okay, hit enter and exit. So guys, I hope you have seen how to configure login synchronous and exec timeout, and have understood what a login synchronous is and exec timeout is. A login synchronous prevents that device from popping up a log messages every now and then when you are configuring a switch. Exec timeout will specify that when a user is inactive for this particular time, it is deactivated and he will be required to log in again. Good, very simple like that. Let's see what we have next. Saving the configuration. This is a very important part, because when you don't save your configuration, they will disappear. There is no auto configuration. You have to save them such that when you come next time, you can proceed from that point. If you don't save them, they are gone. So we have to save the configuration. And which command do we use? Let's go back to our Cisco packet tracer. We have configured this switch. We have configured how many things? Hostname, line console password, line VTY password, we have encrypted password, banner message, login synchronous, exec timeout. So we want to save this configuration. We want to save all these configurations. What do? Let's come back to our Cisco packet tracer. This is a command that is used to save the configuration, and it depends on which mode are you. Which mode are we? We are in configuration mode. So under configuration mode, we use this command do write. Okay, under configuration mode, mark my word, hit enter, or just do WR write. As you can see, it is building configuration, meaning it's saving the running configuration. Okay, all right. So that's a way of saving under configuration mode. Let's see how to save under privilege exec mode. Let's exit this interface. So this is privilege exec mode. How do we save under privilege exec mode? We just simply type a command WR. As you can see, it's the same thing. Or write. Very simple like that, guys. Okay? Very simple commands. Let's see what we have next. how to show saved and running configuration. I want us to understand that something here. A running and saved configuration. A saved configuration, you can say it's a startup configuration. Let's not use the term saved, but best term is startup configuration. A startup configuration are those configurations that have already been saved. And when you power off your device and power on again, you can find them. But a running configuration, they're either saved or not. Okay? Such that when you power off your device and power on again, you might lose some configuration that you didn't save earlier. So under running configuration, it displays those configurations that have been saved and those that have not been saved. Okay? In this scenario, this is running configuration. When we type a command to show running configuration, it will tell us what we have been doing here. But because we have not saved, because we have not saved the configuration, typing a command to show startup configuration, there will be nothing because we have not saved. So I hope you understand between a startup and running configuration. So let's see first running configuration. Which command do we use? Show, run. Just like that, very simple. These are running configuration. Hostname is a switch, as you can see. We encrypted a password. The password is encrypted using which mechanism? MD5. MD5. For those who don't understand that MD5, it's a security. It is an okay. So let's go down. Those are interfaces. A switch has 24 fuzzy Ethernet interfaces. So don't worry about them. We'll cover them next. So this is our banner message. The banner message was this HR switch is for research purposes. Very simple like that. This is running configuration. Line console 0. We used a password of HR123. Then login synchronous and the exec timeout of 3 minutes 0 seconds. Let's go down. Hit enter. Line VTY 0 to 4. Exec timeout was used of 3 minutes 0 minute. Exec timeout of 3 minutes 0 second. Password was HR at telnet 123. Login synchronous was used. Okay, let's go. And that is it. So because we have saved our configuration, we can check on the startup configuration or saved configuration just by typing this command, show start. The same thing. HR, yeah, you can just go down and see the same thing. You can see the same thing of banner message, line console 0, things like that. So you must know where you type this command. Which mode are you on it? Which mode are you typing this command? Under privilege exec mode, showing startup configuration, we just type show start. But under configuration mode, we type a command called do show start. Do. Good. So far so good. Let's see what we have. Good. We have covered almost everything for today. And for those of us who still don't understand this thing, kindly go for researches. Understand what these parameters mean, both theory and practical part. So that's the end of today's class, and let's see you in the next class. Bye.